Yo, what is up, Broncos country? This is Eddie with Mohammed and Gage, our special guest today on Rocky Mountain Blitz, and we got a lot of stuff to get into today. So let's just jump right into it. So first of all, Gage, thanks for coming on, man. Really appreciate it. How you doing?
Doing well, man. Thank you guys for having me on. It's definitely been a while since I was able to hop on here, so excited to come in and kind of fill some of those gaps here in this 5-week dead period where there's not a whole lot of Broncos news to talk about.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I hate this part of the year. It's so boring, no news. It sucks in general. But Mohammed, how you doing this week, man?
It was good. It kind of got hot in Virginia this week. Hotter than usual, but um, hopefully next week it'll get a little cooler and stuff. But I'm glad we have Gage. I haven't seen him in about a year, so it's always a good occasion when we get Gage. So welcome, Gage.
Yeah, we're dealing with like 100-degree heat here in Denver right now. It's brutal.
I worked all week in this stuff, man. I'm staying inside today. I ain't doing nothing outside today. But with that said, guys, please like, comment, subscribe on this video. Also hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. But let's get into it. So first thing I wanted to ask you, Gage, the top two rookies that we drafted this year, RJ Harvey and JD Barron, they have not signed their rookie contracts. Are you concerned at all with this?
So not really. As far as Harvey's concerned with the second round, the entire second round got thrown for a loop basically when Jaden Higgins, the Texans' second round pick, and one other second round pick, I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, they were given fully guaranteed deals. We've never seen a fully guaranteed contract given out to a rookie like ever. So you've got agents, and now you've got the NFL Players Association most likely that are telling these agents, hey, you guys want to get this same thing that these other second rounders are getting. This could be the new precedent that's set here. So there are only two rookies in the second round that have signed, and it's Higgins and whichever other player it was. Again, I can't remember off the top of my head. So I imagine Harvey will get his situation settled down once the situation with some of the other second-round rookies gets settled down. It might extend into training camp, but Harvey and Barron are both playing under basically medical waivers where they're still covered in the event that they get injured and they're not going to be completely unprotected. Unlike Shamar Stewart, where we're seeing in Cincinnati right now, where he hasn't signed his deal at all, or any protections or anything like that so he can practice because the Bengals are trying to put in a new clause into his deal, basically screwing him out of guaranteed money. And I don't know if that's what's going on with Barron and why Barron hasn't signed his deal. He's one of the only other first-round picks that hasn't signed his deal yet, but Barron hasn't voiced any displeasure with the team. He hasn't made anything known like the Shamar Stewart situation, so I'm not concerned really with either one of these players. They've both been practicing. It's not like Stewart where he's completely holding out and is basically not an employee of the team as of right now. So, yeah, if this extends into training camp, then it might get a little bit more concerning. But I imagine by the time training camp is over and we get through the preseason, they will be signed to their deals.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I'm not too worried. And actually, we kind of looked it up. It seems like the deals for RJ and Barron have been set in place. They just haven't signed them yet. So I agree with you, Gage. I think by training camp, they will be signed. I'm not too worried about it. But Mohammed, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm worried. I'm more anxious. It just because they're like our top two picks, right? So it just feels like it's something that's just lingering, and I just want it to be over with so we can move on. But I think eventually it's going to happen. And like Gage was saying, maybe this is going to be the new thing with the NFL, like the NBA with the guaranteed contracts. But hopefully by training camp we hear something and, it'll be all behind us. But
Yeah, like I said, it should be. Like, I'm not worried in the slightest because a lot of people I've been talking to, they're just like, well, what happens if it's the same thing with the, Stewart thing in Cincinnati? I'm like, it's not. They're literally trying to put language into his contract saying, like, if, he screws up even just a little bit, they can literally void everything, even in future years. I think what's going on now is they're pretty much just working out the finer details of the contracts. And, like, if you go on Google right now, you can look up and see what those say. But basically, what I'm hearing right now, or what I've seen, is that the deals are set. It's just the rookies got to sign them. They're probably just working through some finer stuff on it, and then by training camp they'll be signed. So, but the next thing I wanted to move into, me and Muhammad kind of did this, but we'll give our predictions again. But I'm sorry, Gage, what is your prediction this year for the Broncos record wise, and what do you want to see?
So, what do I want to see? Obviously, I want them to win first place in the AFC West. That's what we all want to see. And I want them to go in and make some noise in the playoffs. Now, realistically, that is going to be a challenge because you still are in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know that everyone wants to kind of write the Chiefs off right now, coming off of a Super Bowl loss. Obviously, they do have some question marks on their offensive line, but they still have Patrick Mahomes, and he's still the best quarterback in football right now. They still have Andy Reid, who is a top 3 head coach in the NFL. They still have Travis Kelce, what's ever left of him. They still have a really good defense. So that's going to be a really tough team to get through. The Chargers are a team that have made some strides to get better, and they did sweep the Broncos last year, but I think that Denver and the Chargers are on a lot more of a level playing field, maybe even with a slight edge to Denver this year with all of the additions that they've made. It's just going to be, can you get through Kansas City? So record-wise, I have them going 11-6. I went through every single game, picked a winner, picked a loser. I think they're going to go 11-6, and that's probably going to be good enough for second in the division. Do I think that they can win a couple more games than that and push over the top, or could maybe Kansas City take a step back? 100%. So I think that the division crown is very much in reach for Denver this year, especially if all their free agent additions stay healthy and Bo Nix takes that next step forward in the development that we need to see from him. God, I can't talk
today. No, it's all good, man. I got me and Muhammad did this about a month and a half ago, I believe, right after the schedule got released, and we went over it. And I mean, maybe I'm a little bit more, in favor of the Broncos. I think they are going to win the AFC West. Like the Chargers, yeah, they are about, me personally, I think they're about the same. They really did, other than Marion Hampton, Najee Harris, yeah, they added additions to the run game. I don't really know who their tight end one is. I mean, they got Ladd McConkey, good, receiver, but outside of that, I really don't trust none of their receivers. Even on their defense, they lost Bosa. I don't really know of any big signings or big draft picks they got in this year's draft on defense. So I feel like the Broncos, like you said, Gage, I kind of agree with that. I think the Broncos are going to be a slight bit better than them. And honestly, to me, it comes down to the Chargers and Broncos this year in the division. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, I understand. But if after the Super Bowl loss, I do believe in the Super Bowl hangover, but it's not just that. To me, Kelce just looks like he doesn't want to be out there anymore. In the Super Bowl, he just gave up. It was like you see Mahomes running around trying to pick up a first down. Kelsey's just out there he's not even in a game, it seems like. And Andy Reid, it seemed to me too, he said he's coming back this year, but then after this year, we don't know if Andy Reid's coming back. I think, what is he now, 70, I believe?
He's up there.
He's up there. And I've always said
probably not the best of health either.
Nah, doesn't look.
I can't talk on his health. I don't know. He could be healthier than Knox, but he could have some health issues. But with that said, it's to me, I've told Muhammad this. Everybody knows my takes. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is probably the greatest quarterback in the NFL right now. But I feel like once Andy Reid retires, I believe that Chiefs team is going to take a major step back. That Chiefs team to me is Andy Reid. That is Andy Reid's team. That if it wasn't for him, I don't think the Chiefs would be the Chiefs. Yeah, Mahomes was if Mahomes would have went to the Bears, do you think Mahomes would be the Mahomes we know today with 3 Super Bowl rings? I don't think he would be. I think he'd still be good, but I just think that team without Andy Reid is it's not going to be the same. So I got the Broncos going 13-4 and winning the division. Muhammad, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the Chiefs don't scare me at all because I don't think they were that good last year, and they have gotten worse. I don't think they improved at all, right? So I'm not really worried about the Chiefs. Now, the Chargers are going to be a challenge, but I still think the Broncos would win the division because I think we have a better defense. in all of them, honestly. So I think that's the edge that I guess Gage was talking about. I think we'll end up winning the division. We might split a game with them, but I see the Broncos winning the division, and I think I would say 12 wins, Eddie. Maybe 13, but 12 in the low end. So.
Oh wow, we kind of went in order there, didn't we? I got 13, you got 12. Muhammad Gage has got 11, so we kind of just went right down there in a row.
It's gonna be somewhere in there. I'm pretty sure it's going to be somewhere in there, but yeah.
I believe with all the moves they've made this year, Bo Nix in the second year with Sean Payton, that's at least at the bare minimum worth at least maybe one win, maybe two at the minimum to me, because it's finally time that the Broncos take back their place at the top of the AFC West. So, but with that said, this is kind of leaning into the thing we just talked about. But Gage, what is your predictions for the division? Like, who do you think is going to be like in first, second, third, and fourth?
So I think I've kind of already revealed it. I've got probably Kansas City still as the top dogs until proven otherwise. Obviously, this year probably has the best chance for that to change out of all of the years. I would say that Denver is easily the second best team in the division, again, if not the best team. So I'm going to pencil in Denver for number 2. Chargers at 3. But the Raiders, I'm going to be honest, they're not going to be an easy out this year. Last year, they gave us basically 2 free wins. This year, under Pete Carroll, under Geno Smith, they're going to have a much improved run game with Ashton Genty and Raheem Mostert. They've got Brock Bowers, who is a big-time weapon for them on offense. They've got a couple of good receivers in Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker. Hopefully their defense, hopefully for them, not hopefully for us, their defense can stay healthy with Christian Wilkins. Max Crosby was beat up all year long. Their secondary is trash, and that's going to be really their big issue all year long. But I don't think that the Raiders are going to be an easy out, and I could very easily see a scenario where all 4 teams in the AFC West have winning records and are in the postseason next year.
That kind of scares me a little bit, I'm not going to lie. Muhammad, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I honestly, you know how much I hate the Raiders, but I think Gage got a point. We don't really know what we're getting. I mean, we're saying all these things about the Raiders, but I mean, they got their coach, they got their quarterback, they got their running back, and they have tight end from last, the one they drafted last season. So they could be sneaky good, but I still think, like my whole thing is our defense is the best defense in that division. Like, there's no question about it. So I would say Denver. I would put Denver first, Chargers, Chiefs, and Raiders. That could interchange, but like I said, I have no faith in the Chiefs at all.
I like Gage's take. He's got, like, I hate to say it, like, it's possible the Chiefs do win the division again this year, and we come in second. But with me having the Broncos at 13-4, I think the Chiefs are like, they're not going to win 15 games again this year, especially with the way they were last year. They were getting by the skin of their teeth, and like, I can't remember how many games they won by 1 possession or less.
7 or 8.
Yeah, something like that, something crazy. So I got the Broncos winning the division. I got the Chargers coming in second. Honestly, I got the Chiefs third and the Raiders fourth. Like, I do believe, I agree with you, Gage. I believe the Raiders are going to be more feisty this year, but they just don't have enough, in my opinion. Like, I still believe the Chiefs defense is still a solid defense. The Chargers defense, still a solid defense. Broncos defense, really good. I think Geno's going to struggle. They're going to want to run the ball a lot this year. And outside of, Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, like, I'm not really too scared of the Raiders' weapons. But I do think they will be a little feistier this year. So that's the way I got it setting. Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs. And listening to you, Gage, like, this is kind of dipping into our next point. I originally had the Chiefs missing the playoffs this year. I think, like, I was like, the Chargers and Broncos are going to win in the division. They're going to make the playoffs in our division. And I think this is the year where Travis Kelce and Andy Reid are both like, you know what? We got our rings. We got our money. It's time for us just to hang them up. And they miss out on the playoffs and they go, and then the Chiefs start their rebuild. But what is your take on the AFC as a whole? Like, if you had to pick right now on June 21st, what would be the seeding in the AFC in your opinion?
So let's go ahead and start with division winners. So I'm going to go ahead and give Buffalo the number 1 seed. Obviously, they'll be top in the AFC East. I'm going to go ahead and say Kansas City for the number 2 seed. So they'd win the AFC West. Then I'm going to go ahead and say Baltimore for the AFC North. I was kind of debating between them, and I actually think the Steelers might be sneaky good this year, but I think Baltimore still is definitely better. So I'm definitely going to say Baltimore for the AFC North, and then I'm going to say Houston for the AFC South. So those are your top 4. Then I think Denver is going to have the top wild card spot. I think they're going to be the number 5 seed, so they are going to have to go on the road in the playoffs, which kind of sucks, but they'll be able to play against kind of a mediocre team in the Houston Texans in the playoffs. So I think that's kind of good news for them to go out and win a playoff game this year. So I have Denver as the number 5 seed. I'll put Pittsburgh as the number 6 seed. And then I will put the Chargers as the number 7 seed.
Okay. That sounds pretty solid. Muhammad, what about you?
I agree with you. I got the Bills. Number 1. I actually have Denver as number 2. On the other side, I'm telling you, to me, it's all about that defense. Okay. Then I agree with you. It's gonna be like Ravens, Texans. I would see the Chargers might be ahead of the Steelers on that spot. What you got, Eddie?
Well, I agree with you guys with Buffalo being the 1 seed. I think they got better this offseason. Last year, they were supposed to take a step back, and they didn't, surprisingly. So I think they're going to be better this year. I think they take the 1 seed. I think the Ravens take the 2 seed. They win their division. The Broncos, they got the 3rd seed. They take our division. And then the AFC South, the Texans, I believe are going to rebound. I think CJ Stroud will rebound. They'll take that division. Then after that, I got the 5 seed Chargers. I just feel like the Chargers are going to be good. They're going to come in 2nd place in the division. They're probably going to be like 11-6 or maybe 12-5, somewhere around that area. And then after that, I got I got one team that I think might get in this year, and they've missed the playoffs the last 2 years, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Bengals and Steelers both make the playoffs at the 6th and 7th seed this year. Like, I don't see like this. Like, if Joe Burrow misses the playoffs for a 3rd year in a row, like, there's going to be a lot of talk on him, and I don't think that's going to happen. And also, their head coach Zach Taylor could be on the hot seat. So I feel like that's going to be the Buffalo, Baltimore, us, Texans, Chargers. You can change the 6th and 7th seed between Cincinnati or Pittsburgh because Cincinnati has no defense. Pittsburgh, honestly, I don't know about Aaron Rodgers. I put the Pittsburgh Steelers in, though, because it doesn't matter who their quarterback is, always seem to make it in somehow. So, and it can still be because of their defense, but that's the way I got it panning out this year. The next thing we got is, Gage, I wanted to ask you, what do you think and what do you expect from Bo Nix in year 2? And what do you think about the J.K. Dobbins signing? I can't talk either.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with Dobbins because I think that's going to be kind of the shorter answer. I think that the J.K. Dobbins signing is a very solid signing. The Broncos needed a veteran running back who they could trust in pass protection. That's really the biggest reason why they brought Dobbins in. They think that R.J. Harvey is going to be a very explosive weapon for them out of the backfield. Audric Estime might be on the hot seat here because Dobbins is going to fill a very similar role than what they were expecting to fill with Audric Estime this year. And there's been fumbling issues with Estime, and those fumbling issues have continued into this year's practices from what I've heard. So that's really the big reason why they're bringing Dobbins in. He's definitely going to get involved in the rotation. He's going to get touches, but I do feel that the main reason they are bringing him in is to be a reliable pass protection 3rd down running back, which this team lost in Javonte Williams and the year before that, Samaje Perine. I still think ultimately R.J. Harvey is going to be the leader in the clubhouse in terms of touches out of the backfield. As far as the Bo Nix question, what do I expect from Bo Nix in year 2? I expect him to take a step forward in just taking command of the overall operation of the offense. He himself admitted last year that he was struggling at times spitting the play call out in the huddle. He was struggling with identifying where the linebacker pressure was coming from or where the safety pressure was coming from. He was struggling at times with just the basic operation of the offense. And I expect him to take a step forward in that department. And the fact that we saw him still go out there and have that incredible rookie season that he had, despite not mastering the playbook yet, that's great news for the Broncos, because if he does master it this year, then the offense is going to be unlocked on a completely different level than we've seen in the first 2 years of the Sean Payton era. So that's the first thing. But in terms of just his overall play, I think I want him to kind of marry his lower body mechanics to his upper body mechanics a little bit more. Sometimes you'll see him kind of overcook throws. The accuracy is a little bit shaky. And it's because his lower body mechanics, and in particular his hips, aren't really getting married to his upper body. Once Josh Allen honed in on that, that's how he reached his ceiling and became the Josh Allen that we know and love. So that's what I'm expecting from Bo, is to take the steps forward in really all those categories and just become an all-around more complete quarterback. Because there were just times last year where it felt like he was kind of pushing and trying to do too much. If he can limit those plays and be able to build off of those awesome explosive plays that he had last year, especially in the back half of the season, we're going to be in good shape for several years to come. And I'm very confident that the Broncos have found their guy for the next 10 plus years.
Mohammed, your thoughts?
Yeah, I love the signing of Dobbins. The fact that it happened after mini camp kind of tells me that the Broncos coaching seen something they did not like, so that's why they went ahead and signed him. Because we were saying about them signing a running back before, but they decided to do it. Hey, it gives me more confidence about that room, definitely. As far as Bo Nix, I would say that you could already tell that he's very comfortable. He's taking command of the offense. He's telling the wide receivers where to go. He's acting like pretty much like a coach, and we giving him more talent. Watch out. It's going to be a really good year for him. And we already know he had an amazing one last week. So it's only going to get better.
Yeah, with the Dobbins signing, I was fine with it. Like, I know there's been a lot of talk. Like, I've been, listening to other people saying they could possibly carry 4, which I don't think they're going to carry 4 running backs. Like, especially if they carry Michael Burton on the 53, or they might do the same thing they did with him last year, put him on the practice squad, then activate him on game days, do that a few times. But I think they're going to carry 3 running backs, and I do believe Audric Estime is out the door. I think that 1-2 punch is going to be, of course, RJ Harvey and, J.K. Dobbins. And then the third string back, which Sean Payton, signed as an undrafted free agent, and that was Jaleel McLaughlin. I do think those are going to be the top 3 guys. And Gage is right on the sense that J.K. is the guy to stand back there and pass pro to, sit back there and defend, whenever Bo Nix is back there in the pocket. But also last year, I believe he had over 1,000 yards rushing. Now, I don't think he's going to get that number this year, because I feel like as the season progresses, Harvey's going to get more and more touches, because they're going to want to see what he wants to do, and they're going to want to put their young rookie out there. So probably earlier in the season, you're probably going to see a little bit more of J.K. Dobbins running first until maybe Harvey gets really settled in. But once Harvey gets settled in, you're mostly just going to see J.K. Dobbins coming in on passing downs. I'm not saying he ain't going to run after that. He still will, I'm sure, but you're going to be seeing him a lot more on passing downs, like third downs or, like second long or whatever. And you're going to be seeing Harvey out there running more often throughout the season. So as far as Bo Nix, like, I just, I want to see him be able to, like Gage said, set his feet better. There was a couple of times last year where he literally bailed out of the pocket. Kind of gave me, like, I'm not trying to trigger anyone, but it kind of gave me Russell Wilson type vibes, where he would just bail out way too fast whenever the pocket was clean. But he was a rookie. Mistakes like that are going to happen. I'm fine with it as long as he learns, which we know Bo Nix is going to learn. Anytime he made a mistake last year, what did he do? He come back out on the field, boom, he instantly would, like, I'm not doing that again. So, and the fact that, he was having trouble spitting out the play calls last year, and Sean Payton and Bo Nix both admitted that, he's better at it. he's able to get the play call in, get it out quick, and he knows what he's doing now. He's more, and being in the same system for a second consecutive year really helps him. Like, I feel like him being in the Sean Payton system for the second year in a row, like, it's really going to help him. And I'm expecting more than 30 touchdowns this year for Bo Nix and less than 10 interceptions, especially if he can clean all this stuff up. You got training camp, you got preseason to clean all that stuff up during, before the season starts. So I think he'll get all that cleaned up. And then this season, we're going to see and based on what I heard, Gage, I don't know if you can, tell me this or not, but based on what I heard, Bo Nix is coming bigger. Like, he's more muscular. He added muscle this offseason. Is that true?
Yeah, I think you can see it visually that he's looking a little bit more buff out there. I think that he's kind of ready to absorb a little bit more contact than he did last year. I kind of want to see Bo Nix a little bit more in the designed run game because he's sneaky athletic, man, and I don't think Sean Payton tapped into that enough last year. I want to see Bo Nix take off a couple of times in game.
Yeah, and last year, like, you think he would have done it more, especially considering the fact Bo Nix was our leading rusher in a lot of games last year, too. He really didn't have a great run game. But I don't know if you're gonna see a whole lot more design runs, especially if they got Harvey and Dobbins back there. I'm not saying I don't want to see it. I do want to see it because he is an athletic freak. I want to see him run out there and be like a Josh Allen sometimes and just plow over some guy and pick up the extra yards. But I feel like with a running game this year, we're probably not going to see that as much. I hope I'm wrong though on that. But the next thing up I want to talk about, Gage, and I want to get your opinion on this. We got several players coming up next offseason for contracts. We got Sutton, Benito, Allen, and John Franklin Myers. Who are some of the players you want to see get re-signed next offseason or throughout the season this year?
So I think that in terms of priority to get the deals done, I would say Zach Allen ranks number one for me because when you have somebody who is elite at bringing pressure and collapsing the pocket from the interior, you want to keep that guy around. Those guys are really, really hard to find. It was several years that Denver went basically between Derek Wolfe and Zach Allen where they had a true pocket collapsing interior defensive lineman. So Zach Allen is priority number one for me. Nick Bonitto is a very close priority number two, though. Obviously, he broke out and had that awesome year last year. But I do kind of want to see him go out and do it again because looking at the numbers and looking at the tape, a lot of his sacks last year actually came when the outcome of the game was already decided. He led the league last year in garbage time sacks. So I want to just go out there and see if last year was a fluke or not. And if he goes out there and midway through the year, he's producing at or above the level that he was last year, pay the man. But if he's kind of floundering and not really producing at that level, then I think Denver might have some question marks on if they do pay him long term because you've got depth at edge rusher. They drafted Q Robinson out of Alabama in the 4th round this year, and he's looked really good in camp. You've got Dondre Tillman, who looked good in a rotational role last year. And one guy that I think we should keep an eye on in training camp is Johnny Walker out of Missouri. When I scouted him in person down in Texas at the Shrine Bowl, he kind of reminded me of Nick Bonitto a little bit. He kind of had some similar traits, the burst and the explosiveness on the get off at the line of scrimmage, that kind of stuff. So I do think there is a world where Denver doesn't pay Bonitto if he doesn't produce again. But I do think ultimately he is going to get paid. He is going to produce again. I think that he's going to prove last year was not a fluke. Then number 3, and again, I think he's still a high priority, is Courtland Sutton. He's clearly the wide receiver 1 for this team. He's got impeccable chemistry with Bo Nix. He's been able to really thrive in this system in really 2 completely different roles because in the year with Russell Wilson in this system, he was kind of a red zone jump ball merchant, whereas with Bo plays a lot more in structure. And Courtland Sutton, even though he still had that red zone and jump ball ability, he operated a lot more between the 20s and that kind of stuff. So I think that he's a high priority. But in terms of John Franklin Myers, he's priority number 4 for me, only because Denver drafted Savion Jones this year out of LSU, and he's a really high-ceiling interior defensive lineman who's a very similar build to John Franklin Myers. So that kind of signals to me that maybe Denver is preparing for life without JFM because they know they're going to have to pay Benito, pay Allen, most likely pay Sutton, and soon you're going to have to pay Bo Nix as well. So you got a lot of money you're going to have to dish out, and somebody's probably going to be on the outside looking in, unfortunately.
Muhammad, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, JFM, I think he's gone. I don't really see the Broncos signing him. Sort of agree with Gage. Benito will be number one for me. He got to get paid. Allen also. What Gage said was really interesting. I actually did not think of that when he got his sacks and stuff. That's a little interesting. I guess it's something to watch, right? But yeah, I see them signing Benito, Allen. Now with Courtland Sutton, the emergence of Bryant is making it a little weird for me. I would love for Sutton to stay because the chemistry him and Bonix built, it's like if he's in trouble, that's where he's going to throw to. So I would hate for this to be broken somehow. But hey, if Bryant somehow shows that he's getting an elite wide receiver, maybe they'll trade him. I know, Eddie, you and I talked about it before. He might get traded halfway through the season or something. He is not holding out or anything, so he's playing. So I don't know when the contract is going to happen, but those are the three for me. That'll be Benito, Allen, and Sutton. And JFM, goodbye.
Yeah, my main priority is the same as Zach Allen because next year, I agree. I think John Franklin Myers is gone. DJ Jones is probably gone after this year, and Malcolm Roach is also up for a contract extension. So you're basically probably going to lose both of your nose tackles, and then you're going to lose a defensive end. So Zach Allen's got to be priority number one. Considering the fact he was our best defensive lineman, like Gage said, he's really good at collapsing the pocket. And Nick Benito, I want him to stay. Like, it's just a fan in me. Like, I want Benito to stay. But Gage is right. If he doesn't produce this year, like if he doesn't, be the kind of game changer we're looking for, a guy that can take over a game, kind of like a hey, I shouldn't say it, but because I'm probably gonna get feedback or backlash for this, but like a Von Miller type S player that's a game wrecker. You got Jonah Ellish, you got DeAndre Tillman, you got Q Robinson, you got Walker, like you said, you still got Cooper. Like I would have
Jonah,
to say
I didn't mention you.
Who?
I forgot to mention Jonah Ellis.
No, you're good. But if I had to guess right now, our outside linebacking group is probably our deepest the deepest position on the roster is outside linebacker for this team. Like they got so many decisions they got to make at that spot. And I've been hearing people saying they're probably going to carry 5. Is it possible they carry 6 outside linebackers, which I don't think they'll carry 6. But this isn't a make it or break it year for Nick Benito. Like he's got to show he can be that game wrecker. If not, they've already paid Jonathan Cooper. And that was strange to me last year. Like I was just like, I guess he was due before Nick Benito. I mean, I don't know if they came out at the same time or who came out before who.
Coop was a year before he was due.
Okay, so that's probably why they paid him. But whenever they paid him, I'm like, I wonder why they didn't pay Nick Benito. But that's probably why. But if he doesn't perform, then yeah, I would say Nick Benito probably going to get that contract extension of DeAndre Tillman, Jonah Ellis, Q Robinson, or even like you said, Gage Walker steps up and takes that spot. It's possible. As far as Courtland Sutton, I've said this since we drafted him, but if Pat Bryant comes out and he can show he builds that chemistry with Bo Nix, he can show he can be that number one wide receiver for this team. The Broncos got 3 of those big body type receivers on this roster, the big 50-50 guys, Devon Bailey, Courtland Sutton. We don't know what Pat Bryant is yet, but we've heard Sean Payton say that he's been comparing him to kind of like a Michael Thomas type of player. So if Pat Bryant can come out and be that true number one, that Michael Thomas type receiver in this offense, I think Courtland Sutton's gone after this year. Like if he's not ready, that's a different story. But I don't know, man. Like we just had to see how it goes in training camp and preseason. But if Pat Bryant turns out to be that guy, we might see Courtland Sutton gone after this year. I hate to say that because I don't want Courtland Sutton to leave. I like him. I want him to stay in Denver. But, with all the guys that got coming up, they got to pay. And like you said, Gage, Nix, and probably like the next 2 years, Nix is going to, he's eligible for a contract extension. So they might want to get that done early too, to before, they want to pay him early so that way they're not paying him like, whatever the amount is at that time, $70 million a year for a quarterback. So I kind of want Pat Bryant to take that step. I don't want to lose Cortland, but I think that might be a casualty we see go, whether if it's midseason or even after next season. So, but John Franklin Myers, like I said, I think he's gone. I think him and DJ Jones are both gone. I hope Savion Jones takes that next step to become that defensive end opposite of Zach Allen. And then I think next year, depending on what happens, I mean, I forgot to mention a name out there, Luke Wattenberg. I'm pretty sure he's on the last year of his deal too. So they got to figure out what they're doing at defensive tackle and center after this season. Those are going to be like, I think, the two biggest key pieces on this team going into 2026. So, but with all that said, the last topic I got for us tonight is I want to get both of your guys' takes on this. Gage, what is your biggest weakness on this Broncos roster heading into the 2025 season?
So I have two, and one of them on paper may not be a weakness, but when you start to peel back the layers of the onion, it really is, and that's the tight end position. And I know people are going to be like, we signed Evan Ingram. What do you mean? Evan Ingram plays a very specific role. He's not your traditional inline tight end that's going to be at the end of the line of scrimmage, putting his hand in the dirt and stuff like that. He's kind of more of a big slot receiver. And that's where he's going to line up more often than not, is actually in the slot. Or sometimes in the backfield, he's going to play that sort of H, or sometimes they call it the F tight end. It's where he moves around and really plays a lot of different stuff. It is a joker role. That's really what he is. He's coming in here to play the joker role. But the Broncos still need somebody who can line up at the end of the line, put his hand in the dirt, pass block. That's the most important thing, pass and run block, because Ingram's not going to offer you a whole lot in that department. Adam Troutman is not that good for me in that role. He is basically the definition of mid for me. I don't think that there's really anything that Troutman does particularly well. He's fine, he's competent, but he's not a world beater. So if Evan Ingram goes down, I think Denver goes immediately back to having the worst tight end room in the NFL. And you still need to figure out long-term. Maybe Caleb Lohner, the Broncos' 7th-round draft pick, can step up into that role. That's kind of the ideal scenario for me, but you still need to figure out who your inline starting tight end is going to be alongside Evan Ingram. So that's a weakness for me. Another one is linebacker outside of Dre Greenlaw. Alex Singleton's coming off of a really nasty knee injury. Is he going to be able to bounce back and be that same player? And even before the injury, there was still some question marks about Alex Singleton's tackling and his coverage. So that's kind of a question mark for me. Will Drew Sanders step up into the role if Alex Singleton isn't able to? What's the depth looking like behind those players? So linebacker is another one for me that gets a little bit sketchy outside of the top two starters, and even one of the starters is a little bit sketchy for me. So those are really my two positions of weakness right now on this Broncos team.
Muhammad, what's your biggest weakness for this Broncos roster?
Well, Eddie, for me, it's more on the defensive side. The D-line, specifically the interior D-line, the talent is there, but I keep thinking about the game we had against the Bills last year and how we got manhandled. And I thought the Broncos going to get like heavy, big on the D-line. They didn't. They re-signed DJ Jones. However, we did upgrades on the secondary, I guess. J.D. Byrne, we got a safety. Greenlaw, like Gage said, that's a big one for me. If he's healthy, I think it's going to make a big difference as far as stopping the run. If not, I think we might run into the same problem, Eddie. We go to the playoffs and we run into the same issue, because if you have a really good all line, then what? They're going to do the same thing they did to us last season. And I would hate to see that. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I guess maybe playing the Eagles will let us see how that D-line can handle the run game, to be seen.
I could not agree more.
Yeah.
I do think Denver is a little lacking in a big
Exactly.
gap clogging, space eating defensive tackle, like 340 pounds. If we could find one of those, that would really solidify our D line.
Yeah, like you guys hit every single one position I was going to say. Like those are my top three. Like, and it's not even so much just defensive tackle; it's the whole defensive line. Like, hopefully, Savion Jones can take that step forward. We signed Zach Allen, so at least you got if Savion Jones takes that step, and Zach Allen resigns, at least you know you got your defensive ends. But defensive tackle, that's a big, big thing for me. Yeah, you got Malcolm Roach and DJ Jones, but it's like DJ Jones is another year older. Malcolm Roach, he is a solid number 2, a rotational piece of defensive tackle, I think. And then tight end, you said it best, Gage. Like if Evan Ingram goes down, you get back to having the worst tight end room in the league. Like unless Loner takes a step up, like if Loner becomes that, I mean, and that's gonna be hard because he was what, a 7th round pick. He didn't really play a lot of college football. He was more of a basketball star.
Still
like,
very raw.
Hopefully Sean Payton can turn him into the next Jimmy Graham, like he said. But tight end honestly scares the crap out of me probably the most because you're right. Evan Ingram is not that, put your hand in the dirt type of tight end. He's just the guy that's going to go out and catch passes for you. He's not going to block. I do think Adam Troutman, even though I think he is kind of mid, he's probably between him and Nate Atkins, they're probably our best blocking tight ends on this roster. I would probably give the edge more to Troutman, though, in that regard. Sean Payton apparently likes him. He brought him over from New Orleans. And linebacker, like, to me, whenever I think of a position, I think of a position that, like, one injury, to that position, what's that position going to look like? Inside linebacker, defensive tackle mostly, and tight end. Those are the 3 big positions that if you have an injury to your starter on that, in that position, like Alex Singleton goes down, he's not ready. You got Justin Trinad, which he was okay last year, but still not the greatest inside linebacker. Drew Sanders, we really don't know. I mean, we drafted him to be an inside. Then we put him at outside during, the 2022 season. He seemed to do well there, but we haven't really seen much of him at inside linebacker. Then you got Lavelle Bailey. Like, I kind of hope he makes the roster this year because I really like what I see out of that kid. But, if Drake Greenlaw, Evan Ingram, or DJ Jones goes down, those 3 positions right there, they scare the living crap out of me. And especially DJ Jones, or honestly anybody on the defensive line at the start of the season because, we've been having trouble stopping the run for years. And we really need some people on that defensive line that can play the run game. I'm sick to death, especially in our division now. You got Najee Harris, Omarion Hampton with the Chargers. You got Ashton Jenkins. And I forgot who's their other running back. Mostert, that's what I thought. So you got those 2 guys. And then on the Chiefs, you got Pacheco and I forgot the other guy's name. They have on the roster. Who?
Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little bit older, but he's still a solid running back. But we desperately, we saw in that Buffalo Bills game, James Cook ran all over us. We need some bigger bodies on that defensive line to be able to stop the run. One person goes down the defensive line, inside backer or tight end, this team's going to be hurting bad. So, but that's what I think about it. But any final thoughts from you 2 guys tonight before we get out of here? Gage?
I think we're good, man. I think we covered all the bases.
Muhammad, you got any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Eddie, I think if Greenlaw, I will go back to this if Greenlaw is healthy, I think this defense could help us get deep into the playoffs. I honestly think we can win a few games than we did last season.
Defense wins championships.
It's going to be the best defense in the league. It's going to triumph that 2015 defense.
You know how much I love defenses.
Better than 2015 defense, man. Just wait. But that's it for us tonight, guys. If you guys could, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Also, hit the bell notification so you know when we go live. Gage, it was really great to have you on, man. We really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.
All right, and we will talk to you guys next week. See ya. Peace.
My heart salute, everyone.